Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today I want to talk about something deeply personal and yet universally experienced, the process of emotionally detaching from someone. Whether it's the end of a relationship, a friendship that faded, or unrequited love, letting go can feel like a battle between the mind and the heart. But detaching emotionally, acceptance is the foundation of emotional detachment, and though it sounds simple, it's one of the hardest steps to take. When you're emotionally attached to someone, your mind often becomes entangled with hopes, memories, and imagined futures. You hold on, sometimes without realizing it, because letting go feels like losing a part of yourself. That's where acceptance comes in, not as a moment, but as a continuous, conscious process. It's the quiet shift from "why did this happen" to "this is what happened, and I choose to move forward." Emotional pain is often rooted in resistance. We resist the truth because it hurts. We replay conversations, search for hidden meanings in their words, and imagine different outcomes if we had just done one thing differently. This mental loop can last for weeks, months, or even years. But in reality, none of it changes what is. Acceptance is the choice to stop rewriting the past and start acknowledging the present. It means looking at the relationship or the person clearly, not through the lens of nostalgia or fantasy, but through the lens of reality. Maybe the person you cared about chose someone else. Maybe they mistreated you or simply didn't love you the way you loved them. Acceptance means facing that truth, raw and unedited. It means saying to yourself, "This is not what I wanted, but it is what it is." That sentence may feel like surrender, but in truth it's a declaration of strength. When you accept, you stop giving energy to false hope. You stop waiting for them to return, for an apology, or for closure that may never come. You take back control. What makes acceptance so powerful is that it allows you to feel everything you were avoiding. The grief, the anger, the sadness, all of it comes rushing in when you stop pretending. And that's okay. Emotional detachment doesn't mean shutting down your feelings. It means allowing them to pass through you instead of getting stuck. By accepting the truth, you create space for healing. You begin to process the loss, not as a failure, but as a chapter that has come to an end. Sometimes we confuse acceptance with giving up, but they are not the same. Giving up is hopelessness. Acceptance is clarity. It doesn't mean you no longer care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop holding on to someone who isn't holding on to you. It's the moment you decide to turn your energy inward, to rebuild what you lost in yourself, while trying to keep them in your life. Acceptance also requires honesty, not just about who they were, but about who you were in that connection. Were you ignoring red flags? Were you trying to fix them? Did you lose parts of yourself, trying to be what they needed? When you accept the truth, you give yourself permission to be imperfect, to learn, and to grow. You recognize that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. In many ways, acceptance is the first breath after suffocating. It's the moment you let go of the illusion and allow reality to ground you. It doesn't promise instant relief, but it paves the way for peace. Emotional detachment becomes possible when you stop fighting the truth and start living it. And that's why acceptance isn't weakness. It's the very foundation of strength. Boundaries are essential when it comes to emotionally detaching from someone. They are the invisible lines that protect your mental and emotional well-being, especially when your feelings are still raw or unresolved. While it might feel harsh or even unnatural to set limits with someone you once cared about deeply, boundaries are not a punishment. They are a necessity for healing. Without them, you remain entangled in patterns that keep reopening wounds and delaying your recovery. When you're emotionally attached to someone, you often give them access to parts of you that are vulnerable. You may answer their text right away, check their social media constantly, or keep finding excuses to interact, even if those interactions leave you feeling worse every time. That constant exposure keeps you stuck in a cycle of hope and disappointment. It makes it nearly impossible to get the clarity you need to move on. Boundaries act as a form of emotional insulation. They don't make you heartless. They make you whole again by giving you the space to breathe, reflect, and separate your identity from the relationship. One of the hardest parts about setting boundaries is the fear of being misunderstood. You might worry that cutting off contact will make you seem cold, dramatic, or selfish. But emotional detachment isn't about pleasing others. It's about protecting your peace. You owe it to yourself to prioritize healing over perception. The truth is, if someone truly respected you, they would understand or at least respect your need for space. And if they don't, that says more about their boundaries than yours. A boundary could be something as direct as blocking their number, or as subtle as not replying right away. It could mean unfollowing or muting them online, avoiding places you know they'll be, or simply refusing to engage in conversations that stir up pain. Every time you honor your boundary, you reinforce your sense of self-worth. You're telling yourself, I matter, my peace matters, my healing matters. Boundaries are especially important in cases where the other person tries to maintain contact or confuse your emotions. Sometimes people don't want you but also don't want to let you go. They'll check in just to see how you are, or send vague messages to keep the connection alive. If you're not firm with your limits, you may find yourself pulled back into emotional chaos, even if you intellectually know it's not good for you. Boundaries break that loop. They are the guardrails that keep you on the path forward, even when the past tries to call you back. More importantly, boundaries help you reconnect with yourself. When you stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't reciprocate or respect your feelings, you start reclaiming it for yourself. You begin to see what you need, what you value, and what kind of treatment you deserve. You gain perspective that wasn't possible when your emotions were constantly being stirred. And eventually you realize that detachment doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you started caring about yourself more. Boundaries are not about control. They're about choosing what you will and will not accept in your emotional life. They protect you from being drained, manipulated, or continuously hurt. They give you a structure in the midst of emotional chaos, something to hold on to when feelings threaten to pull you back under. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to overgiving or seeking validation from the person you're trying to detach from. But over time, those boundaries become the walls that hold your healing space together. They are a sign that you are no longer available for emotional harm, and that is one of the most powerful choices you can make for yourself. Self-focus restores identity in a way that is both deeply healing and empowering. When you are emotionally attached to someone, especially in a close relationship, it's common to lose sight of yourself. You might find that your thoughts, decisions, and daily routines revolve around the other person. You may have adjusted your habits, interests, or even your goals to fit into their world, or to keep the relationship intact. This gradual loss of self is often subtle but profound. When it's time to emotionally detach, reclaiming your identity becomes essential to moving forward and rebuilding your sense of wholeness. The process of self-focus means intentionally turning your attention inward and prioritizing your needs, desires, and dreams. It's about rediscovering who you are outside the context of the relationship. This can be challenging because the space left behind can feel empty or unfamiliar at first. But this emptiness is actually an opportunity, a blank canvas for self-exploration and growth. When you focus on yourself, you begin to remember your passions, talents, and values that may have been neglected or overshadowed. Many people find that their identity was intertwined with the other person's, so much so that they can't easily distinguish where one ends and the other begins. Self-focus breaks this codependency by helping you set new priorities that revolve around your own well-being. This might mean dedicating time to hobbies you used to love but stopped doing, or trying new activities that excite you. It could involve reconnecting with friends and family, or seeking new social circles that support your growth. The act of focusing on yourself sends a powerful message to your mind and heart. your life matters independently of anyone else. When you engage in self-focus, you begin to rebuild confidence. The sense of worth that may have been diminished during the relationship starts to grow. You realize that your happiness does not depend on another person's presence or approval. This is a liberating revelation. It creates a foundation of self-reliance and resilience that strengthens you against future emotional turmoil. With each step you take toward yourself, you regain control over your emotions, your choices, and your future. Self-focus also invites reflection and learning. When you spend time understanding your feelings, motivations, and patterns, you gain insight into what worked and what didn't in the relationship. This self-awareness is invaluable because it informs better choices moving forward. You learn what boundaries you need, what kind of people align with your values, and how to nurture your emotional health. Rather than seeing detachment as simply an ending, self-focus transforms it into a powerful beginning, a chance to design a life that truly fits you. Another important aspect of self-focus is forgiveness, both of yourself and of the other person. When you center yourself, you cultivate compassion for your own mistakes and limitations. You recognize that growth takes time, and that healing is not linear. Forgiving yourself for what you allowed or overlooked, and forgiving the other person for their shortcomings, helps you release emotional baggage that can otherwise hold you back. This release further clarifies your identity, free from the weight of resentment or regret. Importantly, self-focus is not selfishness. It is a necessary step toward emotional independence. When you invest in yourself, you replenish your emotional reserves, making you stronger and more balanced. This doesn't mean you close yourself off to future relationships. Instead, it means you enter them from a place of wholeness, rather than neediness. Self-focus equips you to engage with others healthily, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. In essence, self-focus restores identity by helping you reclaim the person you were before the attachment, and guiding you toward the person you are becoming. It is a journey of rediscovery and empowerment, where you prioritize your own growth and happiness. Through this process, emotional detachment becomes not just a separation from someone else, but a reunion with yourself. Feeling to heal is a vital part of emotionally detaching from someone, though it's often misunderstood or avoided. Many people think that detaching means shutting down their emotions or becoming numb, but true emotional detachment requires the opposite, allowing yourself to fully feel what you're experiencing. Emotions are not obstacles to healing, they are the pathway. When you resist your feelings, you trap them inside, which can cause confusion, pain, and prolonged suffering. To truly heal, you must give yourself permission to feel deeply and honest. When a relationship ends or when you begin to distance yourself emotionally from someone important, a flood of feelings can arise: sadness, anger, loneliness, guilt, fear, or even relief. Each of these emotions serves a purpose. Sadness allows you to mourn the loss and honor what was meaningful. Anger can highlight boundaries that were crossed or injustices you endured. Loneliness points to your need for connection and belonging. Guilt might reveal regrets or lessons to be learned, while fear often signals uncertainty about the future. Rather than suppressing these feelings, you must lean into them. When you do, you start to understand their messages, and this understanding opens the door to healing. Suppressing emotions is a common defense mechanism. It might seem easier to distract yourself with work, social media, or other activities, or to push away painful feelings by pretending everything is fine. However, emotional avoidance often backfires. The feelings don't disappear, they hide beneath the surface, influencing your thoughts, behaviors, and even physical health. Over time, unprocessed emotions can manifest as anxiety, depression, or chronic stress. By contrast, allowing yourself to feel validates your experience and helps you process the emotional pain in a healthy way. Feeling to heal also means giving yourself the time and space to be vulnerable. Vulnerability can be scary because it exposes you to pain and uncertainty, but vulnerability is necessary for growth. It's the moment you stop hiding behind facades or denial and start being honest with yourself about what you're going through. This honesty deepens your self-awareness and strengthens your emotional resilience. When you cry, write in a journal, or talk openly with a trusted friend, you're practicing vulnerability and giving your emotions room to breathe. Another important aspect of feeling to heal is recognizing that emotions are temporary. Even the most intense pain will ebb and flow. You might feel overwhelmed at times, but these feelings will shift. Accepting the transient nature of emotions helps you endure difficult moments without becoming consumed by them. It also prevents you from making impulsive decisions based solely on temporary emotional state. Instead, you learn to observe your feelings without judgment, knowing they will pass and leave you wiser. Feeling to heal isn't about wallowing or getting stuck in sadness or anger. It's about fully experiencing your emotions just long enough to release them. This release can come in many forms: crying, shouting, expressing yourself creatively, or simply sitting quietly with your feelings. When emotions are allowed to surface and move through you, they lose their grip and you regain clarity and peace. The goal is not to avoid pain, but to move through it and emerge stronger on the other side. Finally, feeling to heal fosters compassion toward yourself. Often people struggling to detach from someone blame themselves or feel ashamed for their emotional reaction. But feeling your emotions teaches you that it's okay to be human, imperfect, sensitive, and sometimes hurting. This self-compassion softens the inner critic and replaces it with understanding and kindness. It allows you to treat yourself gently as you navigate the ups and downs of emotional detachment. In essence, feeling to heal means giving yourself full permission to experience your emotions without judgment or resistance. It is the courageous act of facing your pain honestly and allowing it to flow through you. This process clears the way for genuine healing, making emotional detachment not a numb disconnection, but a conscious, healthy release. Forgiveness frees you in ways that go far beyond simply letting go of anger towards someone else. It is a profound act of self-liberation, a choice to release the heavy burden of resentment and bitterness that weighs down your heart and mind. When you hold on to grudges or pain caused by another person, you carry invisible chains that keep you tethered to the past. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks those chains, allowing you to move forward with greater peace and emotional freedom. Many people misunderstand forgiveness as excusing or forgetting the wrongs that were done to them. They worry that forgiving means condoning harmful behavior or reopening themselves up to future hurt. But forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. It doesn't mean you forget what happened or deny the impact it had on your life. Instead, forgiveness is the decision to stop allowing those wounds to control your emotions and dictate your present and future. It is an act of reclaiming your power and choosing healing over suffering. When you refuse to forgive, you remain emotionally stuck in the cycle of pain. Your thoughts replay the offense repeatedly, fueling anger, sadness, or even hatred. These feelings consume energy and cloud your judgment. They can affect your physical health, contributing to stress, anxiety, and even chronic illness. Holding on to resentment creates a barrier between you and genuine happiness. Forgiveness breaks down that barrier, clearing the path for inner calm and emotional clarity. Forgiveness also frees you from being defined by your pain. Without forgiveness, you might find yourself constantly identifying as the person who was hurt or wronged. While your experience is valid and deserves acknowledgement, it does not have to define your entire existence. When you forgive, you shift the narrative from victimhood to empowerment. You choose to see yourself not as someone trapped by the past, but as someone who has the strength to heal and grow beyond it. It's important to recognize that forgiveness is a process, not a single event. It doesn't happen overnight, and it isn't always easy. Sometimes it requires working through complex feelings and repeatedly reminding yourself of the choice to forgive, especially when memories resurface. Forgiveness can be slow, and it may need to be practiced multiple times, but each step forward lightens your emotional load and brings you closer to freedom. Forgiving doesn't mean you must reconcile or re-establish a relationship with the person who hurt you. Sometimes the healthiest form of forgiveness is to release your anger without inviting that person back into your life. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself, not necessarily restoring the connection. In this way, forgiveness becomes an act of self-care, rather than an obligation. Another powerful aspect of forgiveness is that it opens space for compassion, not only for others, but for yourself as well. Often we are harshest toward ourselves, blaming ourselves for what happened or for how we respond. Forgiveness invites you to extend kindness inward, recognizing that you acted with the knowledge and strength you had at the time. It allows you to release self-judgment and embrace growth. Forgiveness also helps you regain emotional balance. When you let go of resentment, you reclaim your energy, focus, and joy. You no longer have to expend so much effort guarding your heart or reliving past hurts. Instead, you can invest in the present moment and in relationships that uplift you. Forgiveness frees you to love more fully and live more freely. Ultimately, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It is a powerful tool for emotional detachment because it severs the invisible ties that keep you bound to pain and resentment. When you forgive, you choose peace over pain, freedom over bondage, and hope over despair. This choice transforms not only your relationship to the person who hurt you, but also your relationship with yourself and the world around you. Forgiveness frees you, and in that freedom, you find healing, strength, and the possibility of a brighter future. Detachment is not heartlessness, even though it can sometimes feel that way or be misunderstood as such by others. Emotional detachment often gets a bad reputation because it sounds like shutting off feelings, becoming cold, or refusing to care. But true detachment is a healthy and necessary emotional skill that allows you to protect yourself while still maintaining compassion and respect for both yourself and others. It's about finding balance, loving without losing yourself, caring without becoming overwhelmed, and holding on without being consumed. This distinction is crucial because detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being controlled by your feelings. When someone emotionally detaches, it doesn't mean they no longer care about the other person, or that they lack empathy. Instead, it means they have learned to separate their well-being from the emotional ups and downs caused by that person. This is especially important when a relationship has become unhealthy, toxic, or one-sided. Detachment is a protective boundary that keeps you from getting sucked into drama, pain, or manipulation. It's a way of preserving your emotional energy, so you can think clearly, heal, and eventually move on. Heartlessness implies cruelty or indifference, but detachment is neither. You can deeply care for someone and still choose to detach because your mental health and happiness are priority. In fact, detachment can be one of the most compassionate things you do for yourself and for others. When you detach, you stop enabling harmful behaviors by stepping back instead of reacting impulsively. You also allow the other person to face their own reality without your interference, which can be necessary for growth and change. Many people confuse emotional detachment with apathy because it often involves creating distance. But distance is not the same as it's a way to create space where healing can happen. When you're too close to a situation or person, your emotions can cloud your judgment and trap you in cycles of pain and confusion. Detachment helps you see things more clearly and respond more thoughtfully. It gives you the chance to regain perspective and understand what you truly need, rather than what your heart desperately clings to. It's important to remember that detachment is an active choice, not a passive reaction. It requires courage and awareness. You have to recognize when your emotional involvement is harming you more than helping, and then consciously decide to step back. This process is not about suppressing your emotions, but about managing them so they don't control you. It's about caring enough for yourself to protect your emotional boundaries. Detachment also allows you to maintain your sense of identity and self-worth. When you are overly emotionally attached, you may lose yourself trying to please or fix the other person. Detachment helps you reclaim your power by reminding you that your value isn't dependent on someone else's approval or presence. It empowers you to prioritize your needs and make decisions that serve your long-term well-being. Another key aspect is that detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or stop hoping for the best for someone. It means you accept that you cannot control their choices or feelings.
You learn to love from a place of acceptance, without clinging or expect. This kind of love is mature and freeing. It doesn't demand or suffocate, but supports growth and respect for individuality. Detachment can be challenging because it sometimes triggers guilt or self-doubt, especially if others accuse you of being cold or uncaring. But it's important to trust your instincts and remember why you are detaching, to protect your heart and foster your healing. Over time, you may find that detachment brings peace, clarity, and a deeper capacity for genuine connection, both with yourself and others. In essence, detachment is a form of emotional wisdom. It is the ability to care with boundaries, to love without losing yourself, and to protect your heart without closing it off. It is not heartlessness, but heartfulness, being fully aware of your emotions, valuing your well-being, and choosing freedom over entanglement. This balance allows you to move forward with strength, compassion, and clarity, proving that detachment is not a lack of feeling, but a powerful way of feeling well.